Government's trust loans to start from Monday. Barbados' foreign reserves are up, but the economy projected to decline. And a makeover at the Geriatric Hospital.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
A very good evening to you with the Wednesday, October 31st edition of the CBC Evening News. I'm Ryan Broom and our top story. From next Monday, hundreds of Barbadians will be able to start applying for a government's new business trust loans of up to $5,000. The announcement today from Acting Prime Minister George Payne during an event to officially open the new trust loan unit at the Harbour Road, St. Michael. He says the loans, which will be offered at a rate of 5% with a moratorium period before the first payment, represent a fulfillment of a promise made by the administration when the Barbados Labour Party was still in opposition.
We were concerned about the obvious plight of potential entrepreneurs in this country, persons who for one reason or another had stopped dreaming, persons who had lost all trust in their government. We listened, we heard, and we took heed. It was out of that care, understanding, and respect for equality of opportunity that the $10 million loan trust concept emerged.
Mr. Payne adds that in another few months, 2 additional trust loan offices at Speightstown and Oistins will follow to help deal with the application process. Now, in delivering the feature address, Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Commerce Minister Dwight Sutherland says the trust loans represent government's efforts to grow the economy from the bottom up by empowering more small business people.
I'm sure that most of us are aware that the Trust Loan Fund will comprise Barbados $10 million on an annual basis. Clients can qualify for loans of up to $5,000 with an opportunity to borrow twice this amount on successful repayment of the initial loan, echoed by the Acting Prime Minister as well. He stressed that, not echoed. This is one of the reasons why it is important that beneficiaries of the loan repay in accordance with the established terms, which affords borrowers a moratorium of a few months before they start to repay the loans. These details can be discussed with the trust loan officers.
And Mr. Sutherland also sought to answer one of the most popular questions related to the trust loans, which is who can qualify for a trust loan.
The response to this is quite simple and is based on the yes ethos that will characterize the program. So we say to you, once you apply for a loan, yes, you will get the loan. In other words, applicants will generally qualify for a trust loan on completing a simple application form that requires them to provide basic personal and business related information. As our slogan says, your business, our trust. Therefore, the process will be hassle-free and facilitating, as we've been constantly advocating.
News on the economy now. Barbados' economic activity is expected to decline as a result of government's fiscal adjustment efforts. This revelation from Governor of the Central Bank, Livingston Haynes, as he presented the bank's latest economic review. Shuka Griffith reports.
Barbados' economy is expected to record negative growth in the vicinity of 0.25 to 0.75% for 2018. However, is forecast to show slight improvement in 2019.
Output in 2019 is forecast to be in the range of 0.5% to 1%, but the actual outcome will be influenced by the speed with which new investments, particularly in the private sector, occur. These have the potential to absorb some of the labor that government is shedding. In addition, the 2019 English cricket tour is anticipated to boost activity at the same time as the emerging medical education sector gains root. Increased airlift out of the United States creates the potential for a strong uptick in activity.
The latest report also shows signs of improvement in several key areas. The country's gross international reserves, which have been on the decline since 2012, are now on an upward growth path.
Heavy debt service payments prevented any buildup of reserves for much of the first 3 months of the year. However, gross reserves increased by 104 million between late March and the end of September, almost 80% of which occurred from June onward. The recovery in reserves was principally driven by the suspension of external debt service, which alleviated pressure on foreign exchange outflows. As a result, the gross international reserves, which had been in almost continuous decline since 2012, recovered, enabling the import reserve cover to reach 7.4 weeks of imports. Subsequent to quarter end, the drawdown of the first tranche from the IMF raised the import cover to approximately 8.6 weeks.
Government's overall deficit declined to $34 million for the first half of the fiscal year, a significant decline when compared to $303 million for the same period last year. This was due in large part to improved collections of tax revenue and the reduction of expenditure.
The enhanced revenue performance reflected the impact of a boost to the corporation tax intake of $48.9 million, as several new firms in the international business sector paid taxes for the first time. In addition, the foreign exchange fee introduced in 2017 and some of the new taxes introduced in the mid-year budget contributed $24 million and $18 million respectively. The new fuel tax provided just over $8 million since its inception due to the late transfer of earned revenue to the Treasury.
Mr. Haynes, however, cautioned that while the outlook for the medium term is promising, the actual outcome relies heavily on government's ability to meet the targets set out in its IMF program. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Eureka. Well, tourism will continue to be the main foreign exchange earner for Barbados. That's according to Central Bank Governor Cleviston Haynes, despite continued decline in the average length of visitor stay. He says airlift projections for the next 2 years are encouraging.
We believe that continuing to sustain the tourism sector into 2019 and 2020 is feasible and therefore will give us the foreign exchange that is necessary to supplement what we are getting from the international financial institutions. Because ultimately, what you want to be able to do is to grow your foreign exchange earnings. Yes, in the short term, we are getting some support through debt, but we need also to be able to grow our foreign exchange earnings, and that is going to come principally through the tourism sector.
Now, for the first 9 months of the year, long-stay visitor arrivals have risen by 2.9%, while cruise passenger arrivals fell by the same figure due to a 10% drop in cruise ship visits. Mr. Haynes says output in the construction sector declined significantly since the completion of the Sandals Royal project in 2017. However, projects like the proposed construction of Sandals beaches in the north of the island will create jobs and contribute to economic activity.
But more critically, when you get projects of that nature, is that it creates an environment not only for the sort of construction activity, which is what we think about, but the other supporting sectors in the economy also benefit when you have that level of economic activity. We have the work ongoing on the Sam Lawrence project in the southeast. Once again, another major project. I had a conversation last week which suggests that will be gathering some momentum as we go forward.
In other news now, Barbados needs to expand capacity and access to its post-secondary institutions. The move, according to Acting Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Senator Lucille Moore, will benefit the country and Barbados as many potential students are turned away on a yearly basis.
This will bring greater course diversity in diploma and degree offerings, broader apprenticeship offerings, and a critical rationalization of how and where we deploy our resources to meet the emerging needs of the society. The academic experience of our students arguably has a direct correlation with the types of citizens released into the workplace.
Senator Moore told the closing ceremony for the International Conference on Higher Education Post-Secondary Institutions have contributed to national development. The institutions identified the Barbados Community College, the Samuel Chapman Prescott Institute of Technology, the Barbados Vocational Training Board, and the Urderson Teachers Training College.
I urge you to assume the mantle of pioneering quality education practice in Barbados such that our learners are amassing relevant 21st century skill sets. To do this successfully requires that you pay careful attention to a number of areas as you strive forward.
More upgrades are coming at the Geriatric Hospital. That's the word from Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic. He was speaking at the official opening ceremony of a newly renovated block at the Beckles Road Healthcare Facility this morning. Rianne Phillips has more.
2 months ago, a section of the Geriatric Hospital looked like this, and now it looks like this. Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic says work on the project has been progressing well.
Roof structures have been repaired, ceiling tiles replaced, bathrooms and nurses' stations have been refurbished, windows have been refitted and installed, and internal and external walls have been repainted.
As the other phases of the project are rolled out, Minister Bostic says increased costs are expected.
What started out as a $31,000 project for the completion of this first of 4 phases for this block alone has grown to approximately $155,000.
And the Barbados Defence Force is pleased to be a key partner in the project.
Whilst the Barbadian public often sees the military as boots and guns and uniforms, it is important that we took this opportunity and had this invitation to participate in something that displays more of our skill set, and indeed more of the Barbadian skill set that is resident in our ranks.
The Health Minister also stressed that the 4 district hospitals across the island are in line for facelifts. Rianne Phillips, Cbc News.
The National Union of Public Workers has cautioned government about the effects of the retrenchment exercise on key departments. Assistant General Secretary of the NUPW, Wayne Walron, revealed that they have received complaints that some of them are in a state of chaos because key support staff has been let go. Mr. Walron has warned government that some cuts may end up being to their disadvantage and urged them to review the process. We apologize for the absence of that clip. Well, Mr. Walron was speaking after union officials and retrenched government workers met today at the union's Dalkeith Road headquarters. That meeting was held following numerous calls from public officers. The Assistant General Secretary says there are a number of niggling issues that they're urgently seeking clarity on right now.
Some of those issues would include inadequate information in terms of still requesting a list from the Personnel Administration Division with names and years of service to ensure that the license for policy is adhered to. It will also include submissions made to Ministry of Civil Service for more information on the cuts. We would also raise issues with urban staff that came up from urban to MTW that their years be confirmed as pensionable. You have persons from urban who went over to MTW 12 years and would have worked additional 8 years and have a total of 20 years service in some instance.
Now, in more labor-related news, former General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Sir Roy Trotman, has spoken out against the manner in which workers were retrenched from the public service. Sir Roy, who is now a consultant with the BWU, noted that in some instances, workers were not given proper notice nor counseled.
The result is that there have been unpleasant moments and moments of great trauma for much of the areas where layoffs have taken place up to now. We are hoping that where other people are coming up for layoffs, that by now people will have learned from their mistakes and that we will approach the matter in a manner which is much more humane and mature.
Government is moving to replace all street lights in Barbados with light-emitting diodes or LEDs. The move, according to Minister of Energy Wilfred Abrams, will result in savings for the government. Funding for the venture will be provided by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank. Government is also expected to save even more as it pushes ahead with the installation of photovoltaic systems on state-owned buildings.
The over 4.5 megawatts of solar PV at the Barbados Water Authority and the 2.6 megawatts at other government buildings will save the Barbados government $3 million and $1.7 million annually, respectively, or a total of $47 million over the next 10 years. In the private sector, the over 30 megawatts is expected to save investors, along with the electric utility, over 20 million Barbados dollars annually, or 200 million in the next 10 years. In order to increase our disaster resilience and to increase awareness, the government has installed small solar and battery-powered systems at 10 National Conservation Commission facilities, over 14 schools, and 24 community centers around Barbados.
Now, Minister Abrams has also stated that training and research is important as Barbados moves to further develop its renewable energy sector. He notes the island should never allow itself to fall behind with respect to the advancement of renewable energy as it once led the world in solar technology.
The Barbados government is crafting an accelerated path to renewable energy massification in having 100% renewable energy capture by 2030. This 2030 vision will require private sector partnerships and critical investments of over 30 megawatts per year for the next 10 years. Given our current fuel demands in the transportation sector, the 2030 goal will also impact on the transport sector, which is currently responsible for over 30% of the total energy use in Barbados.